morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where first off, I have an update for you regarding the Beauty and the Beast situation. It's not been so good as we discussed yesterday, but Disney got a little bit of a reprieve and that Russia did not ban the movie. However, Russia did slap an age restriction on it, 16 and up. Ooh, that's not great for the family audience. And one has to wonder, Russia isn't the biggest box office market in the world, although it is one of the top box office markets. It's like at the level of like Mexico. It's not like China and Japan and potentially South Korea, but it's like the second grouping, after the United States and Asia. But still, that headline could potentially act as a guideline, an unofficial guideline for audiences in other countries, including the United States. So I'm curious, for those of you who aren't sure what you're going to do about Beauty and the Beast and the fact that LeFou has been made a member of the LGBT community, when you hear this headline out of Russia, is that an answer for you? Do you go, okay, maybe it is for ages 16 and up? I'm telling you, I've seen the movie. If you ever watch Modern Family is head and shoulders above what they have in Beauty and the Beast. There's just no comparison. It's so subtle, but it is there. So it's sure become a problem for the movie. However, advanced ticket sales are so strong, it might not be able to affect its opening weekend. And that might create a lemming effect, which Disney, I'm sure, would be very grateful for. All right, so let's get to today's 3 stories and the viewer question. Now, they're not all Disney today. In fact, only the viewer question is related to Disney. So they don't dominate the entertainment business that much. Okay. So, although the first story is about Sony and how they continue to shoot themselves in the foot, particularly with a pink bullet, aka, female-centric movies. They're, of course, the studio behind Ghostbusters, and shockingly, they haven't learned their lesson. They also haven't seemed to learn their lesson of their association with Amy Pascal, who got them in a lot of trouble when her emails were leaked in the Sony hack. Like, the Sony hack was embarrassing, but if Amy Pascal had never written those things to begin with, it wouldn't have been as bad, right? So Amy Pascal, of course, had to step down from her position as the head of Sony Pictures, but now she produces movies for them. She has a production deal, so she's an independent producer. However, Sony has, first right to distribute her movies and often chooses to do that. So it's also interesting, Emma Watson is having a horrible time with feminism right now. It's something that I think, everybody, of course, wants equal rights, right? But just, I think show, don't tell, like what Scarlett Johansson is working on, I think, quite effectively, and Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman is a better way to go, right? Just do it. Don't talk about it so much. But what's happening at Sony? Well, Sony just won, and I put that in quotation marks because I think they lost, but they won the spec script Marian. It was going to go up for a bidding war. Paradigm is representing this new screenwriter, Pete Barry. He's got no credits yet, so we don't know if he's actually good or if it's just all a hype machine. I heard some people say that the tracking board really hyped up this script, and that's something that happens in Hollywood sometimes. An outlet or just buzz will build for something, and instead of the studio just reading the script and deciding if it's actually good, they're like, well, everyone's talking about it and everyone says it's good. I'm not sure. I don't actually go to movies that often myself, even though I make movies. I'm just going to buy it. And also Margot Robbie's attached, so I wants it. So that's what happened, all right? So, but it's being produced. The reason I brought up Amy Pascal, she's producing it along with Donald DeLine. So they've sold this script, this whole package. That's when a studio will package a movie. So the package was the Marian script, made Marian. It's a Robin Hood spin-off, as I'm about to fill you in on. And Margot Robbie's attached. So they're like, do you want to... So basically, Paradigm goes around and they says, Pete Barry, he's really hot as a screenwriter, even though he's not proven. And everybody's talking about how great the script is. And Margot Robbie's going to star. And she's going to star as Maid Marian. But get this! This is the pitch. Robin Hood is killed. He's betrayed. So Maid Marian has to take over his rebellion, and I'm assuming is better at it than Robin Hood is. Oh, it's so bad. Okay, and this has been a problem for her with Harley Quinn. I was very upset that they tried to make Harley Quinn. Viola Davis actually says, "Oh, you think the Joker's bad? He's nothing compared to Harley Quinn." And I'm like, whoa, slow your roll. Let's just, Harley Quinn's a great character, but I see no reason to throw the Joker under the bus to build her up. And that's something that Margot Robbie and David Ayer should be careful of when they proceed with Gotham City Sirens, which seems to be a Jokerless movie, which I have mixed feelings about. It's fine because, you don't want to always have the Joker and Harley Quinn together, as it's been the case in the comics. That's something that they've come up with. But I don't want it to be that she replaces the Joker, especially as Jared Leto, his dance card gets pretty filled up with other opportunities. All right, so anyway, the other problem is that Lionsgate and Summit are also making a Robin Hood movie with Robin Hood, and that comes out in March 2018. March, becoming a big blockbuster month, just like February. Although Kong looks like it might be the first casualty. I tweeted about that this morning. We talked about it in Movie Math. So anyway, this Robin Hood movie stars Taron Egerton. I love that guy. Not only is he the star of the Kingsman films, but he was so wonderful in Eddie the Eagle. My favorite film, in fact, of 2016. If you haven't seen it, rent it. All right, so Taron Egerton stars as Robin Hood. Eve Hewson, daughter of Bono, but she's also from The Nick. Steven Soderbergh's The Nick, opposite Clive Owen, will play Marian there, and she's supposed to be a pretty cool character. I think Eve Hewson, usually I'm not a big fan of nepotism, but I think she's quite talented, and she seems to be paying her dues, which I always appreciate. Then Jamie Foxx is also in the movie. Ben Mendelsohn is the Sheriff of Nottingham, taking over the iconic role that Alan Rickman so famously played in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, opposite Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman. And also Jamie Dornan is in it from 50 Shades. This seems like a pretty darn good cast, and so I would imagine that film could do potentially quite well. And also, I just think, again, the Ghostbusters rule, I think it's become pretty clear that audiences don't like it when you take something from guys and give it to girls, right? Do your own thing. I think we talked a lot about changing the ethnicity of characters, and I think it worked, with Deadshot to some degree with Will Smith, but you can see from Black Panther that it's always the best when it's an original character who's created to be a black character, and how wonderful that is. And also, same with female characters, you can do Lady Thor and Lady Iron Man all you like, but I think that Wonder Woman looks quite promising, again, with Gal Gadot, and Ghost in the Shell, which, interestingly, Margot Robbie turned down for Harley Quinn. Very, very interesting indeed. So far, so good for her. But I hope that I kind of think Margot Robbie she's certainly beautiful. I think she's a lot of fun. I think she did a pretty good job as Harley Quinn. But I'm starting to doubt her business sense. All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, speaking of business sense, Eugenio Derbez, who is probably the biggest Spanish language star in the world, is working very hard to become an English language star. I'm a huge Eugenio Derbez fan. I love the guy. His 2013 film, Instructions Not Included, I went to New Jersey to see this movie when it came out, is the most successful Spanish language film of all time in the United States, and it's the fourth highest grossing foreign film ever in the United States. It made $100 million worldwide. It's also an excellent movie. If you've not seen that movie, I suggest that you rent it. Eugenio Derbez, like he always does, he did the voice of Donkey and Shrek for the Spanish language, dubs. He also was Snowball, the bunny, in the the Secret Life of Pets, the Kevin Hart role. He did the Spanish language dub. He's a really fantastic actor, and again, a mega star. Now, he's had a bit of a problem in the United States because he fell in first with Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler put him on Rob Schneider's sitcom. He's been in a couple Adam Sandler movies. He's in the upcoming Netflix, talent manager movie that Adam Sandler's making in a cameo. And I think it's not been a great association for Derbez. I hope that he can really succeed. I love this guy. I have so much respect for him, and I think he's genuinely funny, but also his movies have a lot of heart. Instructions Not Included made me laugh and cry. So anyway, he has an upcoming movie called How to Be a Latin Lover, which comes out April 28th. I will definitely be reviewing it. I was upset. I hadn't covered it because I thought it was, recently the most recent trailer came out, and they were using Kristen Bell for the thumbnail. And I was like, are you kidding me? In a Eugenio Derbez movie? You put Eugenio Derbez in the thumbnail, as I did for this video. And so I didn't know it was his movie until I started watching the trailer. I would have done a trailer reaction, and I was just like, oh my God, it's a Eugenio Derbez movie. And it also stars Selma Hayek and Raquel Welch, but also, again, Kristen Bell and Rob Lowe. I think that movie looks really good. But the reason he's on the news today for Morning Movie News is that he just signed on to do a remake of Overboard, the 1987 Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell movie, which they made when they were like a couple, a Hollywood couple. They still are today, but that's when they were like a first couple, and they just came on the scene, so to speak. And Gary Marshall directed. Gary Marshall, an iconic comedy director. Not one of his most successful films, but certainly one of his solid hits. I'm also very happy about this news because Anna Faris is going to co-star, and I think Anna Faris is also a very gifted comedian, and I felt a little bit bad for her that she's been overshadowed so strongly by her husband, Chris Pratt. When they got married, they were at the same place in their careers. She took off a little bit. He was stuck, often he said, literally holding her handbag with people not being particularly nice to him, which he remembers. Good for him, keeping it real. And now, of course, he is a mega star, and I think it's put her in a little bit of an awkward position. It's tough when couples and, are in the same business and their careers are in different places. So I really want good things for her. Like, for instance, on her sitcom Mom on CBS, which is like a medium hit, I felt kind of bad when they were like, Chris Pratt's going to guest star, please watch. And I was like, aw, man. So anyway, Overboard, this is interesting. So Overboard is a 1987 comedy about this really stuck-up heiress, very wealthy woman, played by Goldie Hawn, who's very mean to this carpenter who does some work for her. But then she's on her yacht one day and she falls off and she gets amnesia. And the carpenter, played by Kurt Russell, has to go to the hospital and claim her. And he decides to convince her that she's his wife. At first to get his money back and just kind of to get back at her, but then they start to fall in love. He finds out that she's a nice person actually, and she starts to like it there, etc., etc. You know how it turns out. All right, so anyway, what they're going to do here is they're going to gender swap it like Splash, the Tom Hanks, Daryl Hannah movie where Channing Tatum is going to play the merman and Jillian Bell will be the person who finds him. Well, here, Eugenio Derbez is going to be the stuck-up wealthy person who falls off the boat and gets amnesia. And Anna Faris is going to be a single working mom who convinces him that he's her husband. That sounds fantastic. I'm very excited. And I really want to see Latino talent do better on camera. We've been just talking about X-23. Some people were like, X-23 is not Latina. She is. She's Latina in the movie. She's half Mexican. She speaks Spanish. And Daphne Keane is half Spanish. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. I mean, she's Latina, just as Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz are. All right. So anyway, I think Eugenio Derbez, it's very important that he succeed. I hope that he does. And I think it's important not only for Spanish language film, but Spanish language talent. All right. So the third story of the day is I really want to pay my respects to Robert Osborne. Robert Osborne passed away yesterday at the age of 84, too young. And he was the host of Turner Classic Movies since the beginning. Turner Classic Movies, and he was Turner Classic Movies for, I think, all intents and purposes. I don't know how the channel is going to continue without him. Hopefully it will find a way, because basically it's included in a lot of cable packages, and you can watch old movies, classic films, for free. No commercials. It's absolutely fantastic that this exists. It's such a resource, and I hope that people use it. Lately, Turner Classic Movies has been trending on Twitter, which has been one of the best developments I've ever seen. So Robert Osborne, he would come in and he would introduce the movies and then do a little wrap-up at the end. And he would also have like specials and shows, and he would interview people. And I think he did a lot to foster a love of classic film with today's audiences, which is really important because, for instance, they were talking about him in Hollywood Reporter. They did an obituary, and they said, oh, it's so important in an age where Daisy Ridley, star, of course, of Star Wars, admits that she doesn't know who Cary Grant is. I thought that was shocking. That made me like Daisy Ridley less because Cary Grant, we're not just talking about some obscure actor. We're talking about one of the most iconic actors of all time. Bringing Up Baby, The Awful Truth, His Girl Friday, Hitchcock's North by Northwest, and also To Catch a Thief. How do you not know who Cary Grant is? It's appalling, especially if you're in the business. To not even be able to name check the guy, I think is, she should be embarrassed. I don't know why she would admit that. She should be like, oh yeah, Cary Grant, and then run home and at least Google the guy. So anyway, thanks to Robert Osborne, a lot of people do know who Cary Grant is. And he's been sick for a while, and it's been sad to see him have to do less and less for Turner Classic Movies. And of course, I think we unfortunately all knew this was coming. On a side note, I was actually walking by the plaza one evening, and he was walking by, and I usually don't do this, in New York in particular, you leave people alone. It's one of the reasons that celebrities like New York. And so I was like, but I have to tell this man how much I love his work. And I did stop him, and I said, Mr. Osborne, I just want to tell you how much I enjoy your work. And he was so gracious and kind, and he said, thank you so much for that. And we just kind of nodded at each other. It was like, I think it was like a rainy twilight, and it was just so great. I just love this man. I think he's wonderful. And I think he had so much respect for classic film. And as another anecdote, I was getting ready for Feud on FX, which I think is medium. Let's just say Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange are no Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. But anyway, I was getting ready by watching not only Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but I wanted to watch some other horror films that Bette Davis made as a result of the success of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So I watched Dead Ringer, which I had actually taped over back during Halloween on Turner Classic Movies on my DVR, and so I already had it. I was like, wow, it's fate for me to watch this. It's a Bette Davis movie. She plays twins, and it's a murder mystery. It's really good, identical twins. And I thought the movie was actually really good, black and white film, just like Baby Jane. I recommend both these movies. And I was also Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, which I'll be watching in the next couple of days, actually. All right, so anyway, at the end of the movie, Ben Mankiewicz comes on, son of the, part of the famous Hollywood Mankiewicz family, and that's, I think, one of the reasons he's a host on TCM. He's the other major host. And he said, it's interesting, Bette Davis said this was a crap script, and we did with it what we could, but that wasn't much. And I was like, what? So basically, Ben Mankiewicz, you just came on here and said, you just watched crap, haha, and laugh at my face? Like, why'd you play the movie if you thought it was crap? And I enjoyed it. I think you could, if you want to quote Bette Davis, and that's another reason, the fact that Bette Davis would say that publicly as to why a lot of people professionally didn't like Bette Davis. You could say that. You could be like, you could see why Bette Davis didn't have a lot of fans within the industry. But you could also say, politely, sometimes actors are hypercritical of their work. I mean, Carl Malden co-stars in this movie. Carl Malden! And if you don't know who Carl Malden is, that's another reason to watch Turner Classic Movies. So what I would recommend to you is let's respect Robert Osborne and his legacy. Every month, I recommend, if you were lucky enough to get Turner Classic Movies, and you really should, you should go through and check the listings. And if a movie has 3 or 4 stars, record it. It's free. Why pay to rent a movie that's probably only medium sometimes when you can watch a classic? And it's really important, particularly if you're interested in the industry, to know your stuff. I mean, it's a great film school. Quentin Tarantino learned about making movies. He worked in a video store, but he just watched lots of movies. But also, these classic movies, I think, are wonderful to help shape you as a person. You learn life lessons from other people. I mean, sure, they're fictional characters often, but you learn from their experiences, their mistakes, their triumphs. I can't recommend classic movies enough. They are just some of the best movies ever made, and you really should know them. It's sad to think people don't know foreign film and they don't know classic film. I mean, you're missing great stuff. I know there's so much to watch these days, but you really should do your favor. You could at least pick up 2 to 3 movies a month on Turner Classic Movies. And I guarantee you, you'll be better for it. Your life will be improved. All right, so let's go on to the viewer question. And that's, I think, by the way, that's Robert Osborne's legacy. He has done more for the love of classic movie and Hollywood history than I think anyone ever. That's amazing. He's Mr. Classic Hollywood. All right, so on to the viewer question from Josh Beams. Josh Beams had a great question. So I've been doing a lot of Mary Poppins Returns coverage because they've been releasing pictures. So Josh says, hi Grace, I love your channel so much. Thank you. And I have 2 Mary Poppins related questions for you. Great. The first is, why are they aging the other characters up like Michael and Jane Banks, but not Mary Poppins? Is she immortal? So yes, just to answer that question very quickly, Mary Poppins does not age. She goes back into the sky to come back down to nanny some other children in another important date. All right, so anyway, this is the second question. It's just really sparked my interest. So Josh says, my second question is, do you think that this film will have an animated sequence like the first? I am an animation lover, and that was always my favorite part of the original film. What a great question. It never occurred to me that they would have an animated sequence in Mary Poppins Returns because, with all due respect, Josh, I don't like that sequence. I actually really dislike it, but it is an iconic part of the film. And if Mary Poppins Returns wants to have the same Oscar chances that the first one did, nominated for a slew, one, of course, Best Actress for Julie Andrews, and I believe 1 or 2 other Oscars, and was nominated for Best Picture, it's going to have to include that, right? How can you leave that out? It's a big part of the film's legacy. So I think now that you brought it up, Josh, they definitely need to have it, even though me didn't like it in the first film. But here's the thing. It was 2D animated in the first movie, but of course Disney has largely left 2D animation behind. So it's going to be computer animation. Now, do you do a hybrid like Paperman, the Paperman technology? Is that finally ready, Disney? Come on, what's taking you so long? And then also, can you do some cool things with like other visual effects to do something really artistic, right? Like think about what you could do today when, with it, literally you're depicting imagination. I think that could also really help them with the awards, with their awards potential by doing an animated sequence and pushing it even further than the original. However, that didn't help A Monster Calls, which featured extensive animated sequences, which I thought were quite beautiful and artistic, but they never even advertised that they were a part of the movie, which I think was a bad call. So, who knows? But I'm interested, what do you think? How did you feel about the original animated sequence in Mary Poppins, and how do you feel they should pay their respects to that with the sequel, Mary Poppins Returns? I still get such a kick out of that title because it's such a famous comic book title. It's so funny. All right, so write your thoughts down below. Thank you for your question, Josh. Write your thoughts down below on today's top 3 stories, your own memories of Robert Osborne and your favorite classic movies. And then, of course, what you think of Josh's viewer question. And, of course, any questions that you might have yourself and any stories you'd like to see covered right here on Morning Movie News. Thanks for watching, and you can check out some more episodes right now.